for the pauldrons will be going with normal silver steel. What to go with for the Sons of Sorrow. It's not very interesting. You do a base of Vallejo natural steel, and then cover that with Agrax Earth Shade, and then do a dry brush of shimmering silver. And it adds just a good amount of depth. Fortunately, we just have the and instead of covering, what is it, like 60% of the model. That's the usual coverage. I took care of my black armor earlier, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out because I was just dry brushing dark gray over black. Gives the illusion of silver. It's not an illusion, it just adds the depth. And then we can come in with the next layer, which is all the reds, because fun times with Death Companies, they're mostly red. That's a lie. They just have a lot of red compared to usual. So, once that's done, I have to pick the pointiest brush because now I gotta do the detail work. This one's not bad. Really need to go through and upgrade all my brushes. We'll start with this one. Hearts I've ever painted. That is a good X. That's a fantastic X.
Now if I can go over it with a couple more layers and not screw it up. This is the layer where I'm going to screw it Shaky. Making me nervous.
We are supposed to be relatively thicker.
Gloss varnish. I want a matte varnish.
Make all that look good as soon as I get this one thickened up. Ooh, that was messy. Okay. Not perfect. But I think I can be content with that. That is a decent looking X. I want at least two. I know that for a fact. On each model, I have 10 intercessors. are. We stick on with YouTube. I think this is going to be. It's easier on the internet, and I get more interaction because I think YouTube pushes my algorithm a little more. Chats are orange, no fair one to be blue again. I don't make the rules. Streamlabs does. It's all fine. You cannot hear me. I noticed I was quiet. I bet I know what happened. 1 second. It's not my game. I know that. I was messing with that the other day. Fixed. Okay. So much better. I'm quite familiar with that issue. Music is too loud and mic isn't working. Mic wasn't working. It was not cooperating the way it should. It's a very familiar issue. That's a little bit of a wonkier X. Well, the point is for you to hear me. That's the whole reason I'm doing this. Well, get better ears. Definitely tell these X's are hand painted. I think we're going to do a little bit of batch work, so we're going to move on to this guy because I know for a fact that I only want 2 on each model. For sure on the left pauldron, or on the right pauldron, and then some other random location. This dude might have 3 though because he's got the chest shield. Back to how it was. The world was better that way. So who are we covering in colored dice today? These are my Death Company intercessors for my Sons of Sorrow. They're a special unit for Blood Angels and Blood Angel successors. Because they're the ones who fall to the quote-unquote Black Rage, where they have hallucinations of seeing Horus and Heretic Astartes at the moment of Sanguinius's death. So they go absolutely berserk, and they are uncontrollable maniacs. And so the Blood Angels use them as their berserkers. But they're a one-time use though. Because after it's all said and done, and battle commences, if they survive, they're executed because they kind of bring shame to the chapter. X marks the spot. It can. Intercessor means what? Intercessor is your basic Primaris Marine. So they're called intercessors. Particularly Primaris intercessors. It's just the name of the unit. I have a feeling this X is not going to be as good. Oh, good. Berserk Space Marines. That can't go wrong. Well, they're not the only ones, to be fair. Because World Eaters are all Berserkers. But they're their own thing. They're not in any way related to the Blood Angels. These dudes particularly have a psychic affliction. But yeah, they get chained up and kept to be used later. That can't be sustainable. Well, the Blood Angels have been fighting it for over 10,000 years. And they're still around. There have been attempts to try to overcome the Black Rage. The Lamenters, the whole reason the Lamenters were created was an attempt to stop the Black Rage from manifesting. But it failed. And they just got really, really, really depressed. And whenever the Blood Angels received Primaris reinforcements, it was thought that they were free from the Black Rage, but we've learned recently that they are absolutely not. I don't think I'm being as careful with this one, if you can't tell. My paint's also a little runnier. Don't like that. Can they make more, or are they just from the same group that saw the heresy and they just keep them chained up? So it's a psychic hallucination. So anyone who has the Blood Angels gene seed is susceptible to the Black Rage. So new Marines that are made, that are implanted with the gene seed, there is a very high chance that they will fall to it. Not a high chance, but there is a chance that they will fall to it, particularly if they are in extremely stressful situations. So my boys, the Sons of Sorrow, they are a Lamenter's successor, so they already suffer from the major depression, but they also suffer from major anxiety. Because the Lamenters got into a lot of trouble at one time. This big thing that nobody's ever heard of called the Badab War. That was sarcasm in case no one could catch that. But so yeah, they joined the wrong side, and then they had to go on a 100-year penance crusade, and that was a big deal. But during their crusade, my chapter was founded. And so now not only do they suffer from the depression, but extreme anxiety. So the anxiety puts stress onto them, so they have a slightly higher rate of Black Rage ensuing. Oh, so it's in their DNA at this point. Yeah, it's 100% in their DNA. Their rage blinds them. And I went for I attempted the urban base idea that I've seen going around for these guys. I just cut up sprue and made bricks to make it look like cobblestone. Probably should have spaced it a little closer together, but I also wanted to make it look like it was slightly damaged. So we'll see how it turns out whenever I get to those details. Fuzz on the tip of my brush. So you have made ADHD Space Marines? Basically. bricks look cool in the base. Yeah, once I primed them and then base coated them black, they do pop, and I'm gonna add some color to them. I don't know if I want them to be like a metal causeway or if I want to make them actually stone. Not totally sure on that yet. Still think your snow ice one is the best so far. Second to lava ones. Yeah, I may be making more ice ones. Definitely for my raptors. For my world eaters, they will be getting ice bases. I know that for a fact because they were on an ice planet. These guys, not totally sure yet. I know I want them to be at some point during the Alperin Crusade, which is their current bit of lore that I'm writing right now, set in the quote-unquote current day. Ooh, okay, my brush is losing its point. And this new chapter that I'm creating at the moment is also taking part in this Alperin Crusade, but it's for very different reasons. But I'm gonna have to get some more models and paint them so I can do some tests on a scheme. Because all the models that I have primed right now on the shelf behind me are already set for the armies that they are being added to. Like these guys, for instance. So I can't just pull them and use them for something else. Make these flush. I'm not gonna beat that first X. Yeah, Blood Angels are my boys, but particularly the Lamenters. But yellow is an atrocious color, so we're not going that route. Oh yeah, I was gonna do the heart on this guy. Oops. Should probably also give him the Sanguine Tear. Painted so many hearts on this army, and they are all of varying degrees of skill. Call that good. If I go too hard on it, then I'm just gonna mess it up. Do an X over both hearts. See, I would do that, but I'd like to keep it relatively clean to show the chapter symbol, because they have, typically, according to the Codex, if you have a specialized rank or unit, their left pauldron is to remain the same. Ooh, 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 that was bad. That was bad. That was very, very bad. Can I clean that up, please? Clean up on aisle left arm. Ooh, 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 ooh. Making mistakes, causing issues. Ooh, have to pretend like it's not there. It's not that noticeable, right? I lost my point and it just ended up being a blob. Yeah, it only wants to focus when it's like right in its face. It doesn't focus on the midground or the background. Oh, it kind of focuses on the background, but the midground it absolutely despises. If I could zoom it right now, I probably would, but with the way my setup is, that's not exactly possible at the moment. Okay, we're gonna call that good. Bootyful. Not at all. I'm going to remember that mistake forever, and it's going to haunt my nightmares. But it's fine. Okay. And I'm probably going to put one on this left knee plate. I'm looking to see how the stream is actually doing. How is everybody out there, by the way? I see I have more than one viewer. Any notable Warhammer experts out there who are criticizing my every movement and every word that comes from my mouth? There's that epic animated fight with the two Marines against the Necrons, and one of them is missing an arm. Yeah. That was... I forget the name of the animation, but it's one of the ones on Warhammer Plus, which I don't subscribe to because all of my money goes towards models. But it's a salamander. I think he's just an intercessor, and an Ultramarines apothecary. And I don't know either of their names. You're my favorite viewer. Well, you could think that. Well, I'm here, so now you know the stream is doing well. I guess that makes sense. But yeah, he was missing an arm. And it wasn't bleeding, if you notice that, because Space Marine wounds cauterize immediately. No, wait, I'm the favorite viewer. Alright, you two have a duel, and let me know who comes out on top. He has to agree for his own safety. That is true. Rank and win. So that means you forfeit. I wanted to watch this go down. Should do with honor. Send my assistant to fight my battles. Well, we know how well that's gonna go, because your assistant isn't exactly prowess in martial skill. You can't win. Sure you can. Just say, look over there, and then run away. Problem solved. Alright, we got 3 X's. That one is very, very rough. I'm going to see if I can touch that up. The assistant will flash me with a grin and I won't be able to fight back. I don't know. It's pretty easy sometimes. Gosh, I know how to fight this duel. Yeah, sugar. Uh-oh. Give war in the DMs. This is dangerous. Anyway, this X is very bad. And I don't know if there's anything I can do about it. Related, there are times you punt family. I won't be able to. Depends on who you're punting. Just looking to see how this looks on screen. The illusion is that it's all black. But when I dry brush that gray, it adds definition. Excuse me? You don't know who I was talking about. Yes, he is based. I spent a long time doing the bases for these guys. I have 10 of them. These are only 2. Question is, what color do I want to go to next? Do I want to do the silvers or tackle the gold? How much gold do I have? I have the gold rim around the blood drops, and then I have the Aquila. And everything else I think is going to get a silver. Could paint the pouches. Oh, and then the Aquila on the bolter.
Who is Alfarius? I am Alfarius.
Enough said. I gotta mix my gold.
Not good enough. Well, if you're wondering who Alfarius is, that's all you're gonna get. From everyone who claims to be Alfarius or otherwise.
That wasn't me, for the record. That was my gold.
You were told to ask me. By who? Was it Alfarius?
If we believe you. It's a valid answer, and also the only answer you will ever receive to that question. From anyone who knows the answer. Of course. Would I lie to you? My sources are classified. Well, your sources can... I don't know, be executed for heresy? I don't know where I was going with that. My sources have made it the F up. Well, it sounds like you still don't know who Alfarius is, then. Or is it Omegon? Or is it Alfarius portraying Omegon? Or is it Omegon portraying Alfarius, who is portraying Omegon? Are you confused?
No, I had asked someone what kind of questions I should ask, and that was one of them.
See, I know what's up.
Yes, super confused. Why am I watching this?
You tell me. I will answer all of your questions to either the best of my ability or to the point where it doesn't get me shot.
Because I like my face to remain unbolterfied.
We are slowly getting to the point. See, these guys go so fast compared to regular intercessors. Because you're just doing a black base coat and you're practically done. You just gotta go do all the fine detail work.
Still not happy with that X. If a Space Marine punches himself and it hurts, does that mean he is a strong Space Marine or a weak Space Marine?
Well, let me tell you. It depends. Is he wearing armor? If he's not wearing armor, then he is inevitably weak. Because a Space Marine's strength does not always lie 100% in their physicality, despite popular opinion. That's just the facts. But it can also be applied if you have one Space Marine punching another Space Marine. Because you do have Space Marines that are Psychers, that are still, I mean, immensely strong because they're Space Marines, but they don't rely solely on their strength. Now, if you want Marines that solely rely on their strength, look at, the Iron Hands are a good example. I mean, World Eaters, duh. Flesh Terrors, yeah. Strong for the sake of being strong. Definitely Imperial Fists. Where is the heresy line? What counts as heresy? Or what is just a dumb opinion? That is open to interpretation. Depends on who you ask. Because there's plenty of heresy that is being overlooked within the Imperium. For instance, Belisarius Cawl. The man is living heresy because he invents and invents. He created the Primaris Space Marine. He created their armor. He created their bolters. The man is an innovator, and if he wasn't so high up in the Mechanicum, then he would be removed. So, uber heresy. Also, the Exorcists chapter. Ooh, we got everything. I will go off, man. The Exorcist chapter. The ultimate loyalist heretics. Actually, that may not be entirely true, but that will require more thought than I'm willing to give right now. But these guys, literally, their initiation process is you have to willingly become possessed by a demon
and then either will the demon out of your body or have it exorcised. Now, if that is not heretical, I have no idea what is. That's it. Rant over. They look super dope though, because their armor is covered in like anti-chaos runes. It's kind of sick. It's the gold for him. Do him real quick. I feel like that is heresy. It is! To anyone in the ecclesiarchy, that is 100% heresy. But they are adept at taking on demons and chaos shenanigans. Like, that's their specialty. So it comes down to the point whether or not it's worth calling them out. Because for strategic purposes, yeah, you want something like that on your side. Light is not cooperating. So the Inquisition, can we talk about that? What about it, exactly? It covers a lot of different facets. Because you have all of your individual ordos. And what they cover. You do have good inquisitors. I don't mean Mexican Inquisition. Since you couldn't expect that. I wasn't expecting that. But that's because I'm a little 40k pilled. In case nobody knew. The Inquisition always seemed to be harming the Imperium, so why would they be around? The Imperium covers a lot of different areas because of their Ordos. So you have the Ordo Xenos, the Ordo Malleus, and the Ordo Hereticus, which are the three major ones, but there are dozens of other minor inquisitorial Ordos. And they do serve some good. They usually go around doing the things that Space Marines themselves can't. Sometimes in a non-war setting. So, like, they're much more subtle. Let's put it that way. No one could tell. So, and different Inquisitors will take on different roles within their Ordos too, and they're not usually assigned said Ordo or said roles. They're usually assigned to them. Or no, you're breaking my brain. They take on their roles of their own free will. It's just a matter of which Ordo they are a part of. So, say the Ordo Malleus, their whole thing is they seek out chaos and they mark it. That's pretty much it. They may research chaos, things of that nature. So they're basically spies that seek out like cult uprisings or chaos presence. The Ordo Xenos, that speaks for itself. It's the same thing, but Xenos. And then the Ordo Hereticus goes through and looks for heresy, specifically. So that could be tech heresy. It could be... it could just be... what's the word I'm looking for? Receding from the Imperium. Not receding. Seceding. Receding is what my hairline is doing. And then those things can be marked for war. They can either dispatch Astra Militarum, or if the threat is deemed too great, they can dispatch Space Marines. Some Inquisitors have Ordo Militants, which are their own personal Space Marine chapters that follow them around and do their bidding. Those are things. Oh, you're still talking. So they get to pick who they screw over? Essentially. I mean, there is the larger Inquisition, because you have the High Lords of Terra. Who kind of can tell them what to do, but they can tell everyone what to do. But basically, the Inquisition isn't all bad. It's just the bad ones are the ones that get the attention. And when I say bad, I mean bad in a 40k sense. It's all bad. And one of the reasons that guys are blowing up my phone now. One of the reasons that the Imperium itself doesn't break ties with Mars or the Mechanicus is because it would cost them greatly, because the Emperor made the whole Treaty of Mars. One, because Mars is a valuable ally because they supply the Imperium with all of their war gear. And if they wanted to start a war with Mars, they would lose. Everything is bad in 40k. At what point do they just exterminate the galaxy and start over? So, there was one lone Inquisitor. Inquisitor Kryptman. I believe he was from the Ordo Xenos. His philosophy... Well, he was observing the movements of the Tyranids. And they were moving from planet to planet and consuming all the biomass and all that. That's what Tyranids do, you know? Oh crap, these aren't supposed to be gold, these are supposed to be brass. Whoops. Gotta add some color depth. So his philosophy was the Tyranids will stop moving if you remove their food supply. So he exterminated a record number of planets. Oh, by the way, outside of the High Lords of Terra, Inquisitors are the only people who can sanction Exterminatus. Mars is in the planet? Yes, Mars as in the planet, because that's where the Mechanicus come from. During the Unification Wars, actually, I think it was during the Great Crusade, the Emperor went to Mars, realized that they built Titans and Bolters and Knights and tanks and everything that the modern Imperium uses and the 30k Imperium uses. They supplied all that for themselves. So the Emperor signed the Treaty of Mars, which allowed them to openly worship the quote-unquote Omnissiah, who is their god. They believe that he controls and lords over all things technological, which is why you hear praise the Omnissiah all the time. Which the Emperor wasn't a fan of, because the Emperor was very anti-religion. So the Earth exists in 40k then? Yes, the Earth is Terra. So anytime you hear Terra, that is Earth. It's been renamed to Terra, but it's not the Earth that we know. It is a giant hive city now, or hive world. So layers and layers and layers of structure. The oceans have been quote-unquote boiled away. So Terra is basically just the hub of the Imperium. It's where all the High Lords are. It's where the Custodies are. And it's where the Golden Throne and the Emperor are. The Emperor. Ooh, look at these fancy toys. Let's be friends. Kind of. If it wasn't for the fact that those toys could decimate what he was building, he was more concerned about them destroying everything. So Mars got to be its own entity. So when you see the two-headed Aquila, one of those heads represents Terra and the other head represents Mars, and it's their unity, because the Imperium doesn't really encompass Mars. They just have the treaty where Mars supplies the Imperium. I thought Terra was something different. No, Terra is 100% Earth. The memes make the Emperor look like a chill kind of guy. How true is that? It depends on the setting. He was actually a really chill dude, especially in the beginning. And then he started finding his sons and being a bad dad. I'm gonna go ahead and put this brass in here. Where's my brass? There it is. But he definitely had his moments. But he was not a dictator, but he was a brutal conqueror when it came to the Great Crusade. And he was trying to reunite the galaxy under the banner of the Imperium. But he was a chill dude as long as nobody got in the way of his goals, which was unite the Imperium and make humanity the greatest of all time. Hello, not so funny guy. For some reason, your chat is not appearing in my feed. I'm seeing it on the stream, but it's not showing up here. Bad dad to some of the strongest people in the galaxy. That won't cause any issues. Well, and you see, he did. It is stated that he made the Primarchs and the Astartes to be expendable. Because they were supposed to fulfill the same roles the Thundor Warriors, which he used for the unification wars on Terra. And they were quickly disposed of by the Custodes after their usefulness was up, and it was time for an upgrade. So I know he has to be fed like 10,000 souls a day or something. Why is that? It's only 1,000 souls a day, and it is the only way that they are keeping him alive on the Golden Throne. And it has to be particular psychic souls. It's because he said something YouTube doesn't like it. Oh, not that guy. I saw your thing in the Discord. Okay, so who am I talking to? Because you're in our group. I know that. The 10,000 number is about the Astronomicon. Yeah. Yeah, because the Emperor is feeding the Astronomicon. Ooh, that was a lot. Okay. Brass. Might have to buy some more. It's fine. What happens if the Emperor died? We don't know for sure. We know there would be chaos and pandemonium because we would lose access to the Astronomicon again. And travel would be impossible. Again. Well, not impossible, but extraordinarily difficult. Because the throne... The Astronomicon acts as a lighthouse in the warp. So it's what any warp-faring vessel has to focus on in order to traverse the tides of the warp. Sorry, I'm trying to focus on painting again. I just got my paint shaken. But we also know for 100% fact that the Emperor is a perpetual, which means he literally has a respawn counter. So if he were to die, he would just come back after some period of time, but we don't know how long that time would be. We don't know if he would even come back in the same galaxy. It's just a matter of the unknown. So he is living in eternal agony at the moment on the throne. Being fed 1,000 psychers a day to sustain him. And he is currently fighting off demons in the warp in his psyche. Yeah, it's not a good situation for him. Confused rain cloud noises. That's some lore. Hey, you asked. Just so happens that I have an answer. Unfortunately, this has been my hyperfixation for almost 2 years, so I generally have the answer, and if I don't, I know where to find it quickly. Because I don't see any signs of this going away anytime soon, because it's just fun and cool. And it's a very satisfying creative outlet, both artistically and literally. He is mentally fighting demons and they won't let him die. Wait, is he Doom Guy? The Emperor's just Doom Guy. Also, the Adeptus Mechanicus is still the best faction. That is open to debate. Are we talking in lore or are we talking on the tabletop? Because I don't know anything about the tabletop. Because I don't play. I am strictly a hobbyist, as they call us. Because I know people who would disagree. They have an awesome model line. I will give them that. They're not even really the most powerful faction anymore. Because, I mean, there's the Dark Mechanicum, who are Chaos Boys. Lore, yeah, well. They do have interesting lore, but I'm a Space Marine simp myself. I like my Astartes, both Chaos and otherwise. Because I just like their dialogue. I find it some of the most impressive, the most compelling. Plus, why wouldn't you want to be an 8-foot tall super soldier that has a lot of built-up trauma? And it's just compelling storytelling. Literally everyone depends on them for their technology to function. They have a monopoly on it, and I love them for that. As you should. Because that's what I was talking about earlier, is the Imperium would absolutely crumble without them. But Chaos don't really need them. And Xenos don't really need them. You can just be a giant tech priest instead. Look at Call. Call is the ultimate tech priest. Because he's just a chonky boy. Oh, what's that one character? There's one character in the, oh, what book is it? Is it the Night Lords trilogy? It could be Gaunt's Ghosts. It might be Gaunt's Ghosts with the morbidly obese Mechanicus. What's a giant tech priest? It's a tech priest that's giant. True, but there is the Dark Mechanicum. They are doing something. Tech priest, but huge. Exactly. Yeah, the Dark Mechanicum is what's keeping Chaos running. Kind of. The only reason the Dark Mechanicus is functioning is because of Vashtor. And Vashtor is doing his own thing at the moment, and we still don't know what that is. I have not read the Arcs of Omen, but I would like to if I had more time in the day. I have a lot of books I need to read with more time in the day. Okay, I need to back off on this gold. I've been at it for a long time. I need to move on to the silvers. The leader of entire Mechanicus is, quote, more building than man. Yeah. Yep, that's the one. I heard the VA for the audiobook for that was great too. Isn't that basically a Space Marine? A human, but more? Except tech priests replace all of their body parts with technology. And not... There is no gene seed involved. We really need... Raincloud, you and I really need to finish the Space Marine 2 campaign, because there's a lot of Mechanicus stuff that hasn't been explained to you yet. Tech priests, are they the ones making the floating head guys? The servo skulls, you mean? I mean, yeah, they do make those. Oh dear. Yeah, they're a little wonky. Because they believe that the Imperium... Where's my brain at? Not the Imperium. They believe that the machine is superior to flesh. Which reminds me, there is something that I'm going to send you right now. And listen to the VO. Just the VO. It gave me chills. Or I guess I could pull it up on stream, couldn't I? That seems a little heretical. Actually, to them it's not. But that's another thing of the whole treaty, because they're basically allowed to do whatever they want as long as it's not chaos related or directly opposing the Imperium. Okay, I need to start... Should I do the browns before the silvers? No, I should do the silvers first. I do have the brass out, so I'm going to go ahead and paint these bolts. And these two. I can get to these down here. Oh, that voice. Yeah. Yeah. The machine spirit, however, isn't viewed as AI, despite some machine spirits being 100% being AI. Yes, that is something that I've been researching very intensely as of late, because my new chapter that I'm making, they're a curse founding chapter, and they were experimenting with the ability of being able to communicate, or psychically communicate with and tame machine spirits, but they're curse founding chapters, so inevitably everything went wrong, and what happened was they can communicate with them psychically, but the machine spirits are immensely afraid of them, so it makes using war gear very difficult. I figured those lines were from 40k. Yeah. Because they hate AI in 40k. Yeah. AI is uber heretical in 40k. They call it, it's not artificial intelligence, it's abominable intelligence. I need a drink. You guys have got me going off. Yeah, I love that trailer. I don't have the game, because the game itself didn't really look that interesting. But that trailer, it's so well done. abominable intelligence and soulless sentience. Precisely. Yeah. Simply because during the Age of Strife, there was a period where the Men of Iron, which were artificial beings, started a war and basically tried to wipe out humanity. And then the Emperor decided, nope, no more AI. Never. So they have a good reason. Cracking a cold one on stream? No, I hit my mic as I was opening a water bottle. I was being a good human being. I also don't have any cold ones nearby. The 40K trailers always look sick. They're like the SWTOR trailers. Yeah, they never miss with their trailers. The end product is usually where they fail. Except for Space Marine 2. And kind of Rogue Trader. I'm slowly attempting to make my way through that. But it's kind of been a drag because I've been so Baldur's Gate 3 pilled that it's just hard to do another RPG that is also turn-based. And it's also all text dialogue. So it's just really hard to get through because you have to read it all instead of it being acted. That's my major complaint, but that's kind of Alacat's style. They do a lot of Pathfinder stuff. Ah, yes, the water bottle. Don't come to Mars. I don't plan on going to Mars. In 40K or otherwise. And fun fact, the Mechanicum, or Mechanicus, you'll hear me mix that up a lot. Whenever they made the treaty with the Emperor, they were called the Cult Mechanicum. And in 40K, they are called the Adeptus Mechanicus, because that is an Imperium title. But they are banned from creating their own Space Marine chapters because they would abuse them and use them just to find STCs. Rogue Trader is a turn-based, and you're playing in the Discord a while back. Yeah, that was it. It's interesting simply because it's 40K and it kind of gives you a good visual representation of the world because the art and the design is fantastic in that game. It's just kind of hard to get through. All chapters just pay gene seed tax. Yeah. Yeah. That way, if they need to resupply, or if they need to found another chapter, then they can do so with relative ease because they stockpile it. Where is... Especially for Codex compliance chapters, it kind of keeps them from making an excessive amount of Marines. So it's a good way to keep them in check. know if I'm gonna get one of these guys finished tonight or not. It's already... Let's see, I've been going for an hour and a half. We'll see. Y'all are making me talk a lot. Not that I'm complaining, because this is the only place that I really talk 40k. Verbally. I texted a lot. Alright, I gotta get off and be productive again. Fine, be that way. 5% of 13 seed per chapter. Yep. Yep, it's a good number. It's an efficient number. I'm sure Black Templars aren't too thrilled, but they're not really Codex compliant anyway, so they probably skimp on their taxes a little bit. So, not so funny guy, are you a Mechanicus player? And or modeler or painter? Lost interest in Warhammer over 4 years ago, but I happen to know a lot. I mean, that's how I started. But I've never lost interest. I've kind of been stuck in it since I really started diving into it. I don't play the tabletop, so none of that drama really bothers me. And I don't claim to be an expert by any means, but I do claim to know a lot because it's been literally an everyday obsession for like 2 years. It's consumed me inside and out. That sounded weird. Mostly outside. We'll stick with that. So what chapter are you painting? So this is a homebrew chapter of mine. I currently have 3 Loyalist homebrews and 2 Chaos homebrews. And these are Death Company for said homebrew. They're called the Sons of Sorrow. And they are a successor of the Lamenters, because I love the Lamenters. I'm sure it's just me falling for the underdog story, but I'm a huge fan of the Lamenters. So they were given, well, I guess I should start at the beginning. They started out, their chapter master is was a lieutenant from the Lamenters, who was recovered and almost dead. But instead of him being revived and put into a dreadnought, or revived and placed in the Death Watch, he was given his own chapter because he was a Lamenter and they were still on their penance crusade. So they assigned this chapter to an area of space that I'm writing called the Wraith Pit sector. And it is supposed to be an extension, their existence is an extension of the Lamenter's punishment for being in the Bad Ab War and all that, and fighting with the Red Corsairs. That's pretty much common knowledge at this point. But yeah, so they were sent to patrol this area, which sits between Nocturne and Bad Ab, and Baelor, I believe, was the other planet. And so now they patrol and seek out chaos in order to purge it. And they inherited the Lamenter's anxiety or depression to a slightly lesser extent, but they also acquired an extreme anxiety because they feel like they have to make up for where the Lamenters failed. So they will go to extreme lengths to make themselves look good in the eyes of the Imperium, and allowing themselves to, sorry, I'm focusing here, allowing themselves to or very, very strictly following whatever orders they're given, as long as anyone's watching. Understandable. Yeah, they're very anxious boys, but because of that, they have a very big death company, because that anxiety generally leads to them falling to the Black Rage. I have a couple key characters and some notable conflicts and campaigns I'm working on. In their current setting, they are taking part in what's called, or what I'm calling, the Alperin Crusade, because within the Wraith Pit, there was an entire system that they didn't know had completely been fortified by chaos. And one of the war bands, actually a couple of war bands that are mine as well. And so they're currently trying to go through and retake those worlds within this system, the Alperin system. And they are having a hard time doing it themselves, so they have requested the aid of one of my other homebrews, one of my newer ones. And so they're both kind of just trying to go through and retake everything, sometimes unsuccessfully. Sorry, that's my ramble. Homebrew is my absolute favorite part of the hobby, next to painting. So I do that a lot. So yeah, I have 5 homebrews right now. So they were founded not long after Badab. Not sure exactly when, but their first conflict that was ever recorded is called the Defense of Granor II, which took place in 948 or 930. I don't remember now. 936 M41. So they popped up a few years after Badab. And it's kind of a hotspot for chaos because it's so close to Badab. It's fine, you like listening? Well, I like rambling. So most of the time people just tell me to stop talking. And like I said earlier, I'm not a lore expert, but I will try very, very, very hard to make things as close to lore compliant as I possibly can, while also being able to maintain my own creativity. And if I wasn't so addicted to Space Marines, I'd probably make a guard regiment too. But I don't want to pour the money into building a guard army as opposed to building Space Marines, because Space Marines are a little cheaper financially and points-wise in the tabletop, but that is their own thing. Not really something that affects me, but if I'm making models, I usually try to keep them in line with the rules of whatever edition we're in, which currently is 10th.
I do have a hot take relating to the Imperial Guard, and that hot take is that I do not care for it.
Now I have to ask, why is that? I am legally obligated to ask. Camera's still not focusing. Focus.
Because every faction is just more interesting to me than the Imperial Guard.
Really? See, I'm kind of the opposite there. I kind of think the Imperial Guard is one of the most interesting, next to Space Marines, of course, because I love Space Marines. But they, to me, they bring in that human element to 40k in a universe that is larger than life people who experience no emotion or experience unheard of extreme emotion. Eldar, particularly. My most hated faction. That's my hot take. I don't really like Xenos, period. But especially Eldar. But that's an interesting take. I've never heard anyone speak down about the Guard before. Do you think it's just because they're overpopularized? Like oversaturated? Like the Ultramarines.
True, but they have a lot of stuff, tanks, artillery, and good guns.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they're just as well equipped as Space Marines, if not more equipped. It's just a matter of whether they are allowed access to said things. Because Space Marines, most of the time, if they ask for it, they'll get it. Guard is not so fortunate. Guard kind of has to make do with what they have. We're almost done with the silvers here. I think you're supposed to paint these, like, I think these rounded pouches are leather, but I've always painted them metallic. I don't really have a reason. They just kind of look metallic, so I'm going to continue with that trend. Not too worried about being precise, because I'm going to come up and cover it up with the brown for the pouches, because I will make them leather.
Your average soldier on a feudal world, PDFs of countless worlds without any of that fancy stuff. Yeah. Yep. I respect those guys going up against the entire Tau force with nothing but a sword and a dream.
I mean, the Tau would probably respect you if you came at them with a sword. But your average Imperial Guard wouldn't respect the Tau in the least. I did consider building a Tau army. Because crisis suits, they're cool. But also, just to give my my Space Marines and my Chaos somebody to bully. Because I don't like Xenos. Like, period. Orcs are fine. I tolerate orcs just because of what they are and who they are and their personalities. Like, that gives them a pass. But I can't vibe with Xenos. I despise Eldar. They're just obnoxious. But in reality, I think I'm going to end up just buying more Space Marines so I can start painting this other chapter of mine. The one that I've been creating. Alright, I think that might be all of our chrome. We'll come in and null and oil that after we're all done. Do I do it all on him? I have been batching it, so I probably should do it all on him. I'll go ahead and do that. I wanted to test things out on these two guys because I had an idea for how I wanted to do the Death Company scheme. And so I just wanted to see if it would work on these two. Which it is. It's doing great. I might just go over the whole thing with null and oil. Maybe. I'm not sure. I may just have to call it good. This X sucks compared to that one, though. I like Xenos, but I'm not super into them, but I like them. Which ones in particular do you like? From the British hooligans of the orcs to the not Egyptians of the Necrons. Okay. Necrons, for me, Necrons are slightly above orcs just because of their intellect and the respect I have for them as characters, because going from the Necron tier to the Necrons, I kind of vibe with that. But yeah, I have some like 800 points of Necrons sitting over here next to me, and I'm just trying to get rid of them. I want to sell them. I bought them secondhand, and they were all very poorly painted, and some of them were broken, and I don't really have the desire to put in the effort because I don't want a Xenos army. And the money that I make with them is going to be put back into Space Marines or Chaos Space Marines, so yeah. This blade is definitely going to get coated in blood for the Blood God. All of these guys are, because they're maniacs. We may wrap up after I do this silver. I'm not sure yet. Y'all got me ranting, and now my throat's sore. You vibe with the Black Rage? Anyways, my top 4 Imperium factions are the Mechanicus, Inquisition, Custodes, and Blood Angels specifically. Interesting. Why the Blood Angels? Sorry, I gravitated directly towards the Space Marines. Inquisition is a good pick. Custodes are a great pick. Is it just because they're like Space Marine Plus? that heart is terribly off center, but I don't want to go in and fix it. Well, it's a really simple system. I did a gray primer with a black base coat, and then I dry brushed dark gray over it. And that was it, and it turned out fantastic. Usually I'll dry brush some white for like some highlights, but this didn't need it. It actually turned out really well.
Keep going about the painting process. I'm interested in stuff like that.
Oh, you want me to ramble about what I'm doing? Well, these are probably the simplest things that I've painted in a very long time. I mean, the only reason it's taking up so much time is because of all the detail work. But the normal units for these guys, I do the silver that I did with the pauldron here for their arms and legs, and then their torso and their power packs and their helmets are yellow. I can actually show you here on the method. Oh, crap, I'm bleeding out. Hold on. I can show you the method. It's fine. I'll know over that later. I prime with Wraithbone primer, and then after that, I go ahead and I do all my silvers the way I normally would. So it's the Vallejo Natural Steel, which is mostly what I use for chromes and silvers and stuff. And then I go over it with Agrax Earthshade. And then I dry brush my cheap acrylic shimmering silver over that. And it turns out really well. I'll show it to you here in a second. And then for the yellow, I was doing it like an insane person before, because I would just do thin coats of yellow after yellow after yellow. Or if I was feeling really adventurous, I would base coat a light brown. But that was grueling on my psyche, so I stopped doing that, and I found another way. I use Imperial Fist, and I use that as my base coat. Then I dry brush this flat yellow Vallejo over that, and that gives it a little bit of dimension. And then, to give it some depth, I water down 2 parts Nuln Oil, 1 part water, and then I go over all the yellow with that. Now, typically you're not supposed to use Nuln Oil on yellow because it looks trashy, but mine, once I watered it down, it actually turned out fantastic, and I'm really happy with it. I'll go grab one of those real quick. So This one didn't turn out quite as well because I used too much non-oil layering. It really only needed one. I don't know why I went over it again. But this is kind of how the final product looks. Just ignore the splotches on top of the jump pack. I went a little heavy there. But I thought that they turned out super well. And so this is how I'm going to be doing their basic color scheme from now on. So these are my Sons of Sorrow, the Lamenter's successor. And then this is one of my attempts with a power sword. I really like power swords in lore a lot, and I wanted to get good at painting them. So I've been slowly making my way through them. Still looks really good. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. And to maintain some semblance of lore compliance, I have 5 jump pack intercessors and 5 my brain is frying out. 5 assault intercessors. And I could only make, according to the codex, there can only be 2 close support squads. But you can divide those close support squads in half. So I made half of one squad into the assault intercessors, and then the other half into assault intercessors with jump packs. So my sergeant for my assault intercessors has the red helmet, as you do, with codex compliance. And then this is his second in command of the squad, his squad leader of, I call them second blood, whenever you split a squad in half. So you have first blood and second blood. And so his gauntlets are marked red, which symbolizes that he is the squad leader, but not the sergeant. So, and the reason I didn't make them into another squad was because I already had a squad of incursors that I had painted up that were numbered as 7th squad. So I have 7th and 8th squad. So I'm just splitting them in half. And now I need one more close support unit with 5 Marines. And yeah, then those 2 squads will be full. But I have one more of those assault intercessors with jump pack. And that squad will be finished. And then to lead them, I have this captain with jump pack that I have primed and ready to go. I'm excited to paint this power sword. But he's going to be of the same scheme. And he's a named character in my lore. His name is Captain Godun. Can't really tell you any of his lore off the top of my head, but the Inquisition has 2 ordos, one that tries to uncover information about the Imperium's past, and another that tries to classify and bury it. I love it for other reasons, but that is a part of why. Interesting. So they're just 2 conflicting ordos. Sorry, you got me to go off there. I don't usually talk to people about 40k, so it's kind of a treat whenever somebody asks me a question about something. If I don't completely shut them down. Yeah, I know there's a lot of different ordos, but I don't know a ton about them. I thought about writing my own Inquisitor and just giving them a retinue of a bunch of stuff. Like, I don't know. I need to play more Rogue Trader because then I can get some ideas. Again, it's completely fine. Like the lore of the Sons of Sorrow. Well, I appreciate that. they are, out of all of the ones that I've created, they're definitely the ones that I've put the most effort into. Like, my lore doc for them is just pages and pages. And then I've got my other loyalists, which is the Terminus Knights, who are proclaimed Iron Hand's successor. But it's suspected that they may also be chimeric successors of the Dark Angels. Or they may be pure Dark Angels. And they've just been told that they're Iron Hands. It's not sure, but they don't really follow the Codex. They have nightly houses, 3 nightly houses, which are kind of equivalent to companies for Codex compliant Marines. So, but they are experts in demolition because they come from a mining world. And they use these large machines called core worms that dig through the earth, and they use them to break up planetary crusts. So the survival rate of planets that they make landfall on is very low. And they also think that the Iron Hands are stupid for augmentation outside of necessity. And then I have my warbands. I have the Putrid Maw, which is a World Eaters, a warband, who have been afflicted with Nurgle's Rot. So I kit bash World Eaters and Death Guard for them. And I make some really cool stuff sometimes. I made a Master of Executions out of a Foul Blightbringer. I think that was the unit, Foul Blightbringer. There's so many Death Guard units, I just can't keep up. Fletch's Weak Marines, boo. Yeah, throwing tomatoes at them through the screen, boo. Yeah, they're not a fan of their parent chapter. They think they're dumb. With the exception of their tech marines, who they send to go be trained by them instead of to Mars. But they like tanks. And dreadnoughts and things of that nature. I like the concept of the Iron Hands, but the Iron Hands as a chapter are just kind of meh. They're very boring. That's why I went with them being the successor and them not liking them. But they could also be Dark Angels, so who knows? You can totally get it. Yeah. They prefer to stick to Ferris's original philosophies, where it's more important to achieve strength rather than to replace parts of yourself that you perceive as weak. Actually, in their lore, their first chapter master got lost in the warp because he was chasing a warband into the warp. Don't remember which one I had written exactly. But when he returned, he claimed to have met Ferrus Manus, which, according to everyone, is absolutely impossible. But he's their chapter master, and why would he lie to them? So they believe him, absolutely. But it could have been a warp apparition, could have been deceived easily. It's just hard to say exactly. But that's one of the reasons that they don't believe that the whole flesh is weak motif is correct according to their Gene Father.
I have no idea what is even going on with them beyond the Adeptus Mechanicus relationship and the flesh is weak. Which is surprising, even given that his head was cut off.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I don't know what's going on with them either. I think they just, like, whenever chapters lose their Primarch, they kind of go off the deep end, historically. Blood Angels, in particular, are a prime example. So my personal theory is that whenever Ferrus died, the psychic wave that affected the Blood Angels when Sanguinius died kind of affected them. And they took things to an extreme. Because the Blood Angels, they kind of inherited Sanguinius's major philosophies. In a way. I mean, it kind of just devolved into berserking rage, but I like to believe that the Iron Hands kind of did something similar. And then my other warband is one that I've done a lot more writing for. They're called the Fervent Storm. And they were an Ordo Militant of an Inquisitor from the Ordo Malleus. And they went around conquering worlds, and then they got curious as to who their Gene Father actually was, because they didn't know. They presumed that they were salamanders because their skin was coal black. But upon some research, they discovered that they were actually a chimeric chapter of both salamanders and Iron Warriors gene seed. I really like the Iron Warriors. They're one of my favorite Trader Legions. So they weren't happy that this was hidden from them. So what do? They kill her and string her up. Place her burnt corpse. They also like fire because they're part salamanders. They placed her burnt corpse mounted it above their chapter master's command throne, And when the Ordo Malleus started looking for her, that was all they found. And so what do? They sanction the Red Hunters to go and eliminate them. Because I didn't want to use Minotaurs, because the Minotaurs are used a lot if you want to eliminate a chapter. So they sanctioned the Red Hunters to go find them and kill them. And they escaped into the warp, and they were, mutated and fell to chaos. The whole shebang. And now they stalk the Wraith Pit sector, trying to conquer it, essentially, because they're Iron Warriors, and that's what they do. But they're also trying to find Perturabo and claim him as their father. And they are the opposing force in the Alperin Crusade that the Sons of Sorrow are actually taking part in. Heading up, more or less. They use a lot of Heresy era equipment because Iron Warriors, and they also happen to find some floating in a Space Hulk in the warp. And that's mostly just because I like iron armor. Mark III. I don't know if I want to bother painting those in there. I might just leave them. Alright, so these guys are almost done. I gotta paint the leather. That might be it before I start doing washes. Oh, and I gotta do the blood drops and the eyes. And his skin and hair. Small steps, and then I have to paint the base. I have to figure out what I want to do with these. Could have been worse. It could have been. They could have gotten absolutely annihilated. Alright, well, gotta say, really happy with how these guys are turning out. But I do believe that is going to be it for me for tonight. So, thanks for joining. And, I mean, feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see everyone whenever I get a chance to do this again.